Welcome, everybody, to another installment of Boundary Breakers. We've got something fun cooked up today. We are blessed to be in the presence of Janice Bannister today. Yeah, hold your applause, everybody, because we are going to be going through a little bit about what it means to be involved in stand up comedy these days. And we're going to talk a little bit about the therapeutic outcomings that laughter can give to a person. So, from the human psyche all the way to the scientific reasons behind why laughing is important. Join us for an episode today that'll touch and tickle your soul. I'm your host, Piper McLean, and let's get right into it. So, for those of us that may not know much about you, Janice, could you tell the audience about who you are and what you do?
Oh, great. Well, good morning. Thank you, Piper, for having me on this special edition. And I'm Janice Bannister. I own a company called Laughter Zone 101, and we teach stand-up comedy. We teach storytelling. I produce a lot of comedy shows. I personally do a lot of corporate speaking as well on laughter wellness, which I know we're going to talk a lot about today. And I've been at it for 21 years. I've just passed my 21st year from the first time I walked on stage as a stand-up comic. But that's the business side of me. So that's some of the information. On the personal side, I'm a mom, I'm a grandma. I'm a really weird and quirky, which I like about myself. And I have a good life in that I have a lot of good circle of friends. I have wonderful people in my life. So I'm a happy camper
Yeah,
today. I had up
connection.
days and down days like we all do,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and about those connections, having so much experience in, just life and in the comedy world, you make so many connections with people who are also looking to bring smiles to other people's faces. And, with a topic today, laughing across generations, who else would know more about that than you, being a grandma, going through life and all these different career paths that you've been on. I'd love to learn a little bit more about what the Laughter Zone is.
well, the company itself, actually, when I started it, I wanted to bring laughter wellness presentations to corporations because I thought that people were, so go back 20 years, where people were, business, everything's very serious, and I thought, oh, they need a little more laughter, they need to learn to relax and, have fun on the job. And that was a bit challenging when I first started. I'd taken a therapeutic laughter class with Dr. Madan Kataria, who I'll speak about a little bit later. But so I learned the benefits of laughter. I also knew the benefits of laughter myself. But as I tried to present these programs, laughter lunches and different things to companies, I was often vetoed because the boss people would like, oh, this, why are we going to pay money for this? We don't want people coming in and making it laugh. We're not going to look good. It's not good for our image and blah, blah, blah. So it was a bit of a struggle initially. At the same time, I had started doing stand-up comedy. So I was going out at night and doing shows and working the clubs, and that was a struggle as well 20 years ago because as a woman in the business 20 years ago, I was often, doors were slammed as well. I had one club owner once say to me, oh, it's, we've got a woman on this month. Can you call us back next month? And I'm just like, seriously? But you know what? I called back next month.
Yeah.
I broke down, I guess, some of those boundaries that people were trying to set up for me. And with the laughter wellness, I just would, almost give my services away. Let me come in and just do a half an hour presentation, and people would have a good time. And they're like, oh, maybe there is some value in this, which I can prove now there is.
Yeah.
But initially, it was a little bit too quirky and a little bit too weird for the suit suit people, right? And back to the women in comedy, it was an old boys network. The guys were doing their jokes about their body parts and their little things that they do. And I was introduced sometimes in the worst possible ways, because it was like, I don't know who this is or if she's going to be funny, but she's here, so we might as well let her go on stage kind of introductions.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as fun as it could have been at those stages, but I hung in there. I just kept going. So yeah.
That perseverance is something that a lot of people should strive towards, because a lot of people get shut down by the feeling of those boundaries. And I feel like there's even a issue with women in the comedy world today. I can't even imagine 20 years ago what that must have been like. And just having your experience and speaking from a place that and have felt what it's like to not really be accepted in that area, especially, which is so weird to me, because comedy and laughing is supposed to be something that brings people together. So it's crazy that it would be so exclusive towards women and probably minorities too.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. If you look over the even like you say today, which is way more diverse and wonderfully diverse, the comics that are coming on stage in this era, they have different abilities, they're of different ethnic groups and everything, and they're representing their stories right on
Yeah.
stage. I mean, if we want to be honest, storytelling is stand-up comedy go hand in hand. We're
Yeah.
just using different kinds of way of presenting our story on stage. I mean, 20 years ago when I started doing comedy, I was a bit of a cougar, so I could tell those stories about what was going on there out in the scene. Now I'm a grandma, my stories change and they get updated according to my, for every comic does that. They change their stories as they grow. And just last night in my class, one of the young fellows talked about his trip across the border. Now he's a person of color, and he's like, he got treated different by the border guards than his buddy he went with, right? And so so his stories, when he brings them to the stage, are going to reflect that. So yeah.
Yeah, and the idea of telling stories to get messages across, that has been a tried and true tactic used by, political scientists, business owners, like poets. That's such a way to connect with people, and to add laughter into that will make it resonate deeper within them, because it's like, oh, you know what? I actually think that's funny. I relate to something that's talking about. So I wanted to know a little bit about why stand up. What made you want to get into this industry, especially being, a woman in a male dominated field?
Well, it was a little bit of a fluke. I was a single mom. I had two young kids, and I got canned from my job. I say that in a way that there's no other way to put it. But actually, two companies had amalgamated. I thought, oh, I'm good. They'll keep me. Well, they didn't,
No.
and I was out the door. So one of the things that I after dealing with what happened to me and why was I canned, blah blah blah, I took one of those, what they call transition courses, right, where you go and you learn about yourself and your all kinds of different things. It was really interesting because it was one of the things that they said when they do lots of testing and aptitude tests and things like that, and they said that two of the things I was suited to be was a hairdresser
Okay.
and a minister, which is really,
Oh,
nobody's really heard my minister, a minister was just so off the wall because I have a bit of a mouth on me at times. And you don't notice it now, but I can barely comb my own hair. It's so natural curly. So I thought, but then I thought back after, I thought both of those are listening professions, like a hairdresser gets everything dumped on her about, and she listens or he listens and they talk, it's, and same obviously with a minister or a,
yeah.
person of that, bent. But I went through the program, and then at the end, on my exit interview, the woman said to me that was doing my exit interview, said to me, "Have you ever thought about doing stand-up comedy? And I said, well, no, I've been doing sit down comedy for years because I'm, as I say, a bit of a kook. So I was always entertaining my friends with my stories and different things. She said, you should think about it because you kept us entertained the whole 3 weeks you were here. She said,
Yeah.
you really have a knack for it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, I've never really thought about it. And she had a friend that she knew about that had taken a class. And so I found out about, was at Langare at the time, which was the only place that had classes. So I thought, you know what? I saved up and I went and took the class, and I didn't stop, from then on. I basically took, I think it was an 8-week program at that time, I got on the stage and I loved it. I'm like, whoa, this is fun. And I was basically just retelling some of the stories I've been telling for a while, but I had to tweak them for the stage because they don't, my friends all knew them, and they would laugh even when I just start them, right?
Yeah, because
now I had an audience that hadn't heard them, so I had to fill in the context. So
yeah, I think my brother has the exact same knack. He is so animated and so funny, but he feels like he's not going to have enough things to say on the stage. How do you combat that feeling? What do you do?
Well, and sometimes that's the beauty of the classes is that I get them to dig a little deeper, right? To look at and that's what often your brother or myself, we think, oh, well, I'm funny anyway, I'm a natural. But you can be a natural storyteller and get the laughs with your buddies and your friends or the people in the office. But those stories don't always translate on the comedy stage, the bigger stage. So now we have to encourage you to dig a little deeper. And, there's a lot of science behind stand-up comedy, believe it or not, learning about comparison jokes and learning about, sets of 3 and different styles. Yeah. And how do you take those same stories and make them relatable to a general audience? So, and that's what I mean for my students. I always say the most important things are something that's relatable, have a strong attitude about this. You can hate something and the rest of the audience is listening. They're like, well, I like that kind of thing, but they will listen to you if your, attitude is really strong about it. They're like, oh, well, maybe. Yeah, she's kind of right from her side of it, right? But they don't really agree with you, and you don't have to agree with every comic, obviously. Yeah.
And you don't even have to really agree with what they're saying. If they're saying it in a funny way, it's like, oh, I'm laughing anyway, even if I don't really vibe with exactly what it is. But I feel like that's one of the amazing parts about stand-up comedy is that you're going to see so many different people, and they're all going to have so many different perspectives to tell stories about.
Well, and that's, again, like you say, that's the beauty. So, we've gotten away a lot from just the young dudes with their pants falling down and their hats on backwards. We can see my comic students range in age from 8 years old, when I used to run a program for Capilano University, the summer camps on getting young kids, teaching them stand-up comedy. So from 8 years old to currently 93 years old, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah. This was a fellow that came in my classes when I teach the same program for SFU, continuing studies, and he came into those classes and loved it, and then came into my regular classes at the comedy club. So he's kind of, I always say, if anybody's 100, to let me know, because I'll give you a free class. Bump my numbers up.
No, I love that.
But those, that's the variety of ages. And, my first classes when I started teaching was all young dudes, as I call them, in a loving way. Some of them are very talented. Some of them are still on the circuit, but they were, they were all guys in the class. And it was, I had to say to them, listen to each other. You're telling the same stories. Like, what's unique about you? They wanted to tell kind of, I won't say dirty jokes but, edgy, they wanted to, out edge each other. And I'm like, let's dig a little deeper here and get into some good content that, is more relatable to the general audience. So, and if you go to comedy shows at all, half the audience is women.
Yeah.
So where are those comics? So, and then as the process progressed, I remember when I had like 14 dudes and one woman, and I'm just like, it's you and me, girl. Like we're gonna have to. And the guys sometimes were like, I don't get that. I like what I don't get what she's talking about, or
It's like, but I do.
but
I
you
get
do,
it.
right? And I just say to her, it's working, it's good. Don't worry about it. Don't listen to them. Although they became very collaborative and supportive as the weeks and the classes progressed. That's always a natural arc that happens within the classes. So yeah.
Yeah, you feel like you're knowing each other more, and you can relate better in that. But going back to how most people who view comedy shows these days are women, and that's because women go to more events with each other, right? So
100%.
women are always out there. So it's like you can't tell jokes about that are deprecating women when women are the only people watching. It's like, who's going to be laughing at this? Like, you have to look at who your crowd is and kind of judge it off that and be able to play into it.
Yeah, you know what? I co-wrote and produced two interactive plays, kind of like Tony and Tina's wedding. They were called Martha's Funeral, which we actually did in a church, and then Aunt Betty's Wake. And lucky the writer for Aunt Betty's Wake had a real sense of what wake should be like and everything. But it was interesting because when we did those, I had done some research. I went out to plays for a whole year. I went to as many plays as I could with my, because I work at night. It's not always easy to schedule. And I just to scout the audiences. And I was just like, woman, like you're right, 95% of women in the audiences. And then there'd be a guy there, and I think he was either the chauffeur or
Someone's man. Yeah.
Show, right? But I thought, that's what I should be catering to is that, demographic. And I mean, the shows we produced, or I produced, were again diverse, but again, mostly women in the audience.
Yeah.
And people loved them because it was, they were interactive and they were fun and, lots and lots of laughs. So, and the first one, as I mentioned, we did in a church, which a lot of people came to me after and said, we weren't sure if we were allowed to laugh at some of that stuff.
Yeah.
We're in a church, right? And because it was a church that took part in some Alcoholics Anonymous program, we weren't allowed to have any wine or anything. So we had a tea party after, just like a real funeral. But people are still talking about the teacups, so that was good. But then we switched it to the wake and brought it to the comedy club, and it became a whole different show. And just like still to this day, people are like, why don't you do that again? I'm like, because behind the scenes, it takes 6 weeks to produce
much effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love the idea of that, though. And I feel like the morbidness is why it's sticking in people's minds, because it's so unique, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, my co-writer, her husband actually built us a coffin. So we had the coffin arrive at the club and bring it into the theater, and this was like, what is going on? Right? This big wooden
like, am I at the right event?
Psychedelic paint all over it that we put on the stage. It was very fun. It was just a great show.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear more about some of your other favorite shows you've done and why they have been so significant to you.
Well, again, when I first started, I went to every show I could. And I did meet a producer that produced I think she called it was a women's competition, Funny Women or whatever it was called, Women Who Laugh or whatever. So I got involved in that and actually ended up winning that. I won it the first year, and then I won the second place the second year, as I think they called us. We were first timers the first year, and then next year was like used comics or something like that. So
old news.
Right. I kept in touch with that group for a while. And then unfortunately she passed away, but it went dormant for a couple years. And then I contacted her partner and said, I'd like to revive this, because I think there's a need for this kind of production. And my goal ultimately was just to give women stage time, was just to, all women on the stage. And I will be honest with you, when I presented it to the club, not the club I work for now, but the previous owners, he was like, this'll never work. You'll never sell tickets. You'll never get anybody out to these shows. I'm like, well, just let me try. If it doesn't work, I won't bother you again, Well, of course, we sold out every night. The final we had to do in the big theater. Like we couldn't even do it in the smaller room. Like it was
Yeah.
just, and he's like, "Oh, when are you going to do this again?" I'm like, "Next year." But but the joy of having just women on the stage. Yes, it was a competition, but I'll be very honest with you, it was so collaborative and so much fun. Women who were in that competition are still friends with each other, and I did it for 10 years. And I
Yeah.
just before COVID, coincidentally, I said this is going to be my last year, because I think there's many more stages now where younger women, not that the age category is important, but they are producing their own shows. They're bringing more diverse comics on the stages. So, but that was a big, I love doing that. I just love it. And I kind of think I might revive it in a certain form, because people have been asking me. I'm judging a contest right now called Comics with a Day Job, and they've got a few more women on this year, but last year it was very, like, we're lucky we had one woman on each night, sort of thing. And that could be because of the applications. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I was just like, oh, I think, and young comics have said that to me. Oh, why don't you do that again? Why don't you bring back that? So I'll see. It's always nice to see the outcome, but they don't realize all the production and stuff that goes on in the background.
No one ever does understand what goes on in the back. But I would love to see and be a part of a show, competition, event like that. And what you were saying about the camaraderie between women in the comedy field reminded me of, I don't remember which award show it was, but it was for best comedic actress of the year or whatever, and it was super funny women like Melissa McCarthy, and then I'm so bad at these names, but like any funny woman from any movie, she was in the category, and it was just so wholesome. They were like cracking jokes the entire time. They had a bit going on. I'll see if I can find the video about it, and I'll share.
Yeah, didn't whoever won bring everybody up on the stage with them?
Yeah.
I think it was what do you call Tina Fey and the other, like, there's it was so cool because they brought each other, like I'm up here kind of as the winner, but really we're all, it was, I don't remember again what show it was either, like what award show, but it was really cool.
When I seen it, I was like, that's so amazing. There's no other category of men or women out here where they have such strong camaraderie amongst each other. And that's what you love to see. And that's what's the amazing thing about making people laugh and laughing and engaging with others, is to have that connection. So I think that there should be more programs like that. And even though it takes so much effort to plan, I would love to see and be a part of one of these shows.
Well, and I will tell you, with with my classes being more diverse now, I've had 2 marriages within the classes. They met in classes and carried on. I actually was a wedding commissioner and got to marry.
No way!
Yeah, I married a couple of my students. I'm not a commissioner anymore, but yeah, and so that's cool. I've had other relationships that have gone on for a while and then didn't work out, but tons of wonderful friendships. Like, I sometimes on Facebook, it'll say something, so and so liked somebody else's thing, and I'm like, oh my god, they met in class through that, like the chain of the 20 years, right? I'm like, holy man, they all met in comedy class. They didn't really know each other before then. And it's so, and they still come out sometimes and show up at a show, and they're like, oh, I came out to see so and so because I knew she was on tonight, or he, like I say, it goes both ways now that the classes have become a lot more diverse. There was a time I thought I was an ESL school, because I had a lot of people that were taking classes in ESL, but wanted to get more speaking practice. So they'd come to comedy classes and tell their unique stories and learn their language as they worked their way through the 6 weeks. And it was always fun because, when they first started, I'm like, I'm going to need an interpreter. Yeah. By the end of the 6 weeks, we could, they were fantastic. So it's more than just, you said the word connection, it's just, and I, like, even myself, I've developed colleagues and friendships through the classes, that people who've gone through other things with me and co-produced with me and help. Like, I can't do it all, and some of my people that help me out are wonderful, right? And I was just like, oh my god, thank you. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we're social creatures, and we need that connection to other people to be able to flourish in our own lives, and it has a ripple effect on society outwards. So onto this connection piece, I think it's amazing that some of your students, fell in love, because often you're attracted to people that are like you, that you can see yourselves in, unless you like the opposite type of vibe. But why do you think laughter is able to bridge these gaps between people and foster connections?
Well, I think you start to see um, a bit of a breakdown in that person's facade, if I may call it that, right? If you're sitting next to someone, no matter where you're sitting, whether it's on the Sky Train or in the doctor's office or whatever, and they start to laugh, like, you, all of a sudden you're like, you start to kind of have a giggle yourself, right? And you want to know what they're laughing about.
Yeah.
You want to be part of that. It's, and I think in comedy classes, when you see, and sometimes other comics are not your thing, right? So you're like, I don't want to be their friend, kind of scenario. Although I've encouraged everybody to support each other's comedy without judgment. But I think the connection, like you said, it becomes like they make me laugh, they make me feel good, they make me, and then you kind of, I won't call it a competition, but you're like, oh, maybe I can make them laugh. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's that's how the world moves along, right? Everybody makes a move on to someone else in a, like, not necessarily in a dating sort of way, but just in a connecting sort of way. You can go, hey, do you want to go for coffee after or beer or whatever after the class? And there's that connection. Could be just two friends that, but it also could be, like you say, develop into a relationship or whatever works, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, or even amongst strangers. Like, I am the type, I'm totally a chatty Cathy. I make small talk with strangers all the time. Like, if you sit next to me on an airplane, you're either gonna have to nap or engage. Like, I'm gonna be interrupting your movie. I'm gonna be watching your movie with you. And that's like just such a fun part of life. Even if it's such a insignificant interaction, you're both gonna go away being a little bit happier about what you were doing, and it's just a stranger, you don't even know their name, and you're never
Yeah.
gonna see them again.
But I think that's the risk that everyone needs to take, is because, so I was lucky enough last year to do a TEDx SFU talk. And one of my things I talked about was, you have to be the instigator, right? You have to make that connection. So you're right. Now everybody's got their earbuds in and they're watching their movie or whatever they're watching, playing their games on. We'll use the plane as an example. And they may not talk to you for the whole 2-hour flight, but you made that initial effort. You're like, hi, well, I guess you all know where you're going, but you make some comment about, oh, it's a full plane, or it's, da 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 da, or whatever. And there's a few opportunities within that flight, if it's an hour-long flight or something, where you get a meal or you get your peanuts or whatever. I guess, geez, I'm not doing plane things right, because you don't get peanuts anymore either.
Hey, they had peanuts at one point, I'm sure.
That's right. It's your job to make the connection, because and the results show, like we did a study here in the West, just walking in the neighborhood, that the person who makes the connection, someone else will respond, right? And so that's what I said to people, is you've got to be the instigator, because if you say hi, and it's as simple as hi, it's as simple as a smile, and all of a sudden you've got someone who reacts to it or doesn't, and then you can just leave them alone, right?
Yeah.
They maybe, and that's another thing I've learned over the years, is not to prejudge people, because sometimes they're like, yeah, and that's all they want from their side, and you got to let them, because they may have something going on in their world that you have no idea about. So
Mhm.
you have to honor that as well. You know, can't just like you said, like, what's that movie about? Like, not gonna
Usually,
make
I only do that to the responsive ones, and
that's
then
right.
it's a good flight the whole time.
That's right.
Hey, so what I wanted to know, what is one of your go-to bits or jokes that you feel like most people are going to be able to relate to, enjoy, or just be able to laugh at?
Well, like I say, I'm a little bit quirky on stage, so I am quite animated. So I tend to do, a little bit of audience play. Like I just did a show on Friday night out in the Valley, and I'm a boomer, a baby boomer, of course. And I had a woman because we can't see a lot of the audience, just so you know, when
Yeah,
you're
the
standing on,
lights. Yeah,
yeah, because the lights are in their eyes.
dancers.
Most,
So I
yeah,
totally know that. Yeah.
right, most of the room is dark, right, so but I could see this woman sitting in the front row. Actually, was sitting there by herself in the front row, and she looked to be, I thought maybe she's a little bit older than me, I wasn't sure or whatever. And one of the bits I did was about, I said to the audience, like, I've started to lie about my age.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody assumes I'm trying to, make myself younger or whatever. And I said, I actually been telling everybody I'm 80 now because I really want to get on that new dental plan. And so, and she just cracked up, and I could see her nodding her head and laughing. And I could see, like I said, a few other people, and I assumed were baby boomers as well. And so then I sort of, as she was nodding her head, I said to her, right, are you with me on this? She's like, yeah, I am. And so, and it was interesting because I finished the first half, and then we had a break. And so I went out and talked to some people in the audience that I knew were there, and she came to me after and said, I'm 84 years old. She said, I know you're not as old as me, dear. She said, but I think I can. And she's like, all of a sudden I had this new, and I said to her, oh, thank you for coming to the show. How did you hear about the show? And, and it was billed as a clean comedy show as well, which is an interesting new concept if we want to.
Yeah.
She said, well, she knew the MC, the fella that was emceeing the show. She said, I'm a big fan of his, and she said, but now I'm a fan of yours.
Yeah.
So I think my if I have a strength on stage, it's relating to the audience that I see, or I pre-scout the audience, right? So I know there's a group of young dudes over here, and I know there's a group of white hairs over here, those kinds of things. So I kind of, pitch the boomer stuff over here. And then I've got the dudes, my kids are in their 40s. So, or they might be young parents. I can, I kind of pull from what I see in the audience rather than just going up and doing a set that, is not relatable to anybody. I mean,
Yeah,
I
and
can,
it's just fully planned out. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I will be honest. I've, become repetitious because I do a lot of showcases with my other students. So I go to my solid material, and my other comedy friends all tease me and we're like, oh God, they can do my jokes. We did a roast last year for my 20-year roast, and they all got up there and did one of my jokes, right? And I was like, I knew they were going to, right? Because I thought, because I've done them so many times, but most of the time they're not there, but it's a new audience. So that audience hasn't heard the joke.
Then it's new. If it's a new audience, then it's new material.
That's right. But I know last Friday night I did pretty much all new material except for some other stuff at near the end. I, kind of finished it off with solid, good material that I've been doing for a long time. But yeah.
Would you be able to give us a little bit of a taste of any of these jokes, or just tell us a little bit about one of them?
Well, I do stuff now about, of course, being a grandma, right? And my grandma joke came from a true story. I find it hard to do it on sitting down in the Zoom room, but
yeah, because you'd be up and in the face. Exactly.
That's right. But the stories is unique, and what happened was I basically when my daughter called from New York to tell me she was going to be out, she was going to have a baby, I was like, oh yay, that's awesome, that's so cool, that's fantastic. And she truly said to me, what do you want to be called? And I said, what do you mean called? She said, well, you get to pick your grandma name.
Okay.
And I was like, what do you mean by that? And of course, she gave me some examples. And of course, as a comic, I embellished those names,
Yeah.
like she told me I could be called Gigi or Nona or Flip Flop, or, I just, that, I'd use the comic writing skills to put some funny
Yeah.
things. So they laugh at that. And then this is honest to God truth. I just like, I talked to all my friends. I found out what their grandma names were and how they got them. Most of them didn't even know how they got them. Their grandkids
Yeah.
just made them up and everything. But I did phone my daughter back and said to her, I've got my grandma name. She said, oh, fantastic. What's it going to be, Mom? And I said, I want to be called Grandma Llama Ding Dong.
Oh, okay.
I know. And she's like, Mom, that's never going to happen. But I get a big laugh with that. But
Yeah.
behind the scenes, seriously, I was committed to it. So I signed my birthday cards, and when I give my kids
Grandma Ding
books,
Dong.
yeah, and it does. It takes me forever because it's,
So
I'm not just
long,
selling
yeah.
Nona or whatever. But that's led to other stories because I'd tell my grandkids to call me that, and they're like, no, one of them ended up calling me Grandma Ding Dong, right?
Oh no, that one's still funny though.
One of them calls me Grandma Jan Jan. She just came up with that on her own, right? And now they almost consistently just call me Grandma, right? Which,
Yeah.
as you can know, isn't that funny, right? So
Yeah.
but the backstory is, but every once in a while they'll say something like, how come we call you that? Or, there's a story there too. I've actually started a children's book trying to get all the grandma names, right? Because there's so many and they're so diverse. And I mean, I have friends that have got what I think, or you might think, is ridiculous grandma
Yeah.
names. It's their name, right? Sort of thing. So that's the way I build my stories. I build them, on truth, and then embellish them with some punchlines, and and now that I have 3 grandgirls, so I mean, I got my own writing team, right? They're coming up with something new every day. They're asking me crazy questions, and I just turn it into a bit sometimes.
You
So
turn them all into opportunities as you can. And
yeah.
I love this grandma name bit because it's so relatable. Like
Mhm.
my grandma, she'd die if she heard that I just called her that. She goes by Grammy,
There you go.
and none of us know where it came from, but even like friends of mine or friends of my mother's, like everyone knows her as Grammy. They don't use her first name, they don't use anything else. And it's just stuck. So it's something that I bet every family has.
Every family. I after shows, I get a whole new list.
Yeah.
All these, and once in a while, and I think I've added a bit to that bit where I'll say, and if you're a grandpa, you can be called Grandpa Lompa Lompa. I know, and I every week it changes, whatever
Yeah.
I uses that punchline. But I'll have the odd grandpa come up, but mostly it's the grandmas, like you say, because it's the type of audience. And they're like, "Oh, my kids call me this," or like, and I just, and it gets like, every name is different. I just
Yeah.
like, that's what I say. I'm like, oh, I have to write that one down. But
No,
you're
I
right.
love
So
that.
Grammy is, like you say, that becomes the name. It becomes and that's what gives both parties joy, right? Because you get to call her that, and she gets to receive it as a fun thing that only special to her. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's the only Grammy I've ever met. Like you don't want to throw in Granny. That one she hates that one so much. But I love this intergenerational connection that we've segued into. So, how do you think laughter can help bring youth and seniors together in a way that they currently aren't in our society?
Um, you know what? I think they are each other's fans. I just don't think they get as much opportunity to be together. I mean, yes, you get to, like you don't have her anymore, but you got to spend time with your Grammy, or you got to, you know, I did a production called Heart to Art, or vice versa, Art to Heart. I can't remember what it's called, years ago. And we did it with the teen group. and the elders, the seniors, let's call them. And we separated them at the initial start of the program, and we got them each to tell us things they liked about teens. So the seniors, what you like about teens, what you didn't like about teens, and the teens, what you liked about seniors, what you didn't like about seniors.
Okay.
We used two whiteboards, wrote them all out. They were in separate groups. And then we brought both groups together with the whiteboards. And when you looked at those whiteboards, they were almost identical. So, the kids were saying, I never know what they're talking about. They're always, the seniors were saying, I never know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They wear weird things. They did, and we were just like, holy cow.
It's the exact same.
Right? So, and then we proceeded to build a show basically using these things. So they worked together, they did song, they did dance, they did all these different things. And, and I think creating those opportunities is what we need. You don't see, you see senior programming, or you see, 55 plus programming, or you see, but I mean, there's programs now that bring young, preschool kids into the nursing homes, and they bring cards for the people. And I mean, the interaction is just, they love it, right? These are people that they're still living their life. They just don't get to go out and hang out with little kids, right?
Yeah.
And little kids, some of them, like you say, don't have grandparents, or they don't have, and it doesn't have to be grandparents. It can be, it can be just a friend. Like, you can make friends. I think that's the thing that's missing. And we all think we got to hang out with our own peer group, right? And sometimes that's more challenging than you can expect.
No, totally.
People say that all the time, regardless of age, like, oh, none of my friends want to do anything. I'm like, well, get new friends.
Yeah.
So, it's just, none of my friends want to go to such and such or whatever. Well, you can go by yourself and make a new friend while you're there. Like, it's, I'm sure there's teenagers that want to go to plays with you, or, whatever. But I think that we have to create programming, if you want to use that term, a little more structured, but, have a drop-in. And I know here in New Westminster, we do have some program, because the youth center is at the back of the recreation center for the senior center, right? So there's just one door separating them. So they have a dinner together once in a while. They have some other things, and always they're very well received, and really, really, everybody likes them, both parties. So yeah.
No,
and
totally.
they laugh.
Yeah.
Laugh together.
And, I feel like there are several factors that all people can relate on, and that is happiness, smiling, laughter, and art.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that people can connect through art, and, that is youth and seniors. I did a play when I don't even know how young I was, probably 9 years old. And obviously they needed kids to be cast in the play, but they also needed seniors and millennials and everyone else in between. And my best friends that I made on the set were they were really old people. Like, it was a man named Tim, and then there was like a fully tattooed old guy named Bear, and then there was a guy who had a hunchback named Nathan, and they were the funniest people. They had the best stories, and it didn't matter that I was a kid and they were somebody's grandpa. Like, we just got along so well because we were able to laugh about the same jokes, and we were sharing in, the art of song and dance and all that together.
Well, and you're right. It's participating together, and that's the theater, and which in my mind, and I may be a little bit biased, is a little more powerful because you're, interacting that way. But it could be a card game at the, the coffee shop or whatever, right? Or it's, those kinds of things where kids nowadays, they play a lot of different games online and whatever, but there's a bit of a revival now for board games, and kids are like, what, I don't even know how to play this, but the old guys do, or that kind of thing. And it'd be nice to have community events like that, where there's, different, age groups. But then there's also the big thing about how do you get them there? Like there's like, I'm not going if it's going to be, so there's that reluctance as well. But you're right. Once you get there and participate. So again, you have to be the instigator, get out there, do it. And, you get the pleasure out of it. You get the joy out of it. And so does Bear and the tattooed people and hunchbacks that you met, right? Because they may be talking somewhere about you, because I met this one young woman when I was in this program and, that kind of thing. So that's what we need, more of that sort of thing.
Yeah, and we leave imprints on each other all the time. You'll randomly think back to one interaction that you had, and you're like, you know what, that was like a great memory that I have that obviously was significant enough that I never dropped it.
Yeah.
So, being the instigator, being the one who, tries and goes and makes an effort, what advice do you have to give to people who may feel a bit hesitant or self-conscious in, going up to others or getting up on stage and, doing a piece or anything like that?
Well, I mean, and this isn't even because I teach stand-up comedy classes, but, find a place to start. I mean, so I'll use my class as an example. Every class, 10 to 15 people come in. None of them know each other initially, right? I may know some of them because some of them do come back and take another kick at the can and, want to go back on stage or they've let it go for whatever reason. So all of a sudden, and I know it because I've sat in those classes and thinking, oh my God, this is a weird bunch. Like, right? Where you all look around and you're just like, oh God, and then, but I make every one of them get on stage that first night. And often they'll say to me, oh my God, I didn't think I was going to go up there the first night. I'm like, well,
well, now you have.
That's right. So there's that, they have no camaraderie at first, like I say, because it's just, and they sit like miles apart. They don't even sit close to each other. They're like, they find the farthest seat from the other person that, is in the room. And as I watched so back to how do you not make them, but how do you encourage them? Then the next week they come back and they're like, oh, hi, I forgot your name, but da, da, da. So now they're talking to one person, then they're talking to another. And of course I do group exercises where they, I switch them up all the time. So they interact with each other and, and I love seeing that because my mind is just going like, sometimes when I put two different types of comedy together and I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Fusion piece. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the psychology, the, nerd side of me. Like, I'm like, how's this going to go? But it's always interesting because one of the things I do set down some comedy rules at the beginning. And the most important one is you have to respect someone else's comedy. You don't have to like it. You don't have to go to their shows, but, you have to let them do their comedy.
Yeah.
And I think that establishes a respect for whatever performance, whether it's a story you're telling, it could be a miserable, depressing, sad story. And you're thinking, oh, why am I listening to this? But you have to know that they're coming from an authentic place, that person. So it's about, again, I mean, so one of the things that you said about connecting is get out and do something, even at a comedy show, people always say, oh, I was going to go to the comedy show, but I had nobody to go with. First of all,
go alone,
right? Go alone. And secondly, it's better if you go alone because then you're not yapping to your friend while we're on stage.
No,
but I mean, it is nice, obviously, to go to places. And I mean, there used to be, I think there still is, meetup groups and, things where you're like, I'd like to go to theater regularly or opera regularly. Or I just did a class for the 55 plus SSP. It was called Arts for Brain Fitness. So every week we talked about a different art format. And it was so interesting. So we did about, music. This week it was music. And this next week it was theater. And next week. But part of the program was they gave ideas of other like music they like and where they go to hear music or and at the final class, we all shared resources, right? And so all of a sudden now I've got people that, again, didn't know each other, joining someone else's choir, like da-da-da-da, or taking a tap dance. One woman set up a drumming circle, right? So those, again, if they hadn't been in that class, they wouldn't have met those other people and they wouldn't be going to drumming circle, you
Yeah.
know? And yet the first day when I said to them, what is something in the arts that you'd like to do, but you've never done? So I made notes of all that. And I'd say, well, what happened to that group that was drummers? And this people a lot of them wanted to be involved in theater, but they didn't know how to start. Mm-hmm. So that, you got to get out and do something. And it could be a registered course, or it can be, in the park talking to other people. Yeah. You can't, it's hard to make friends in your house.
It is.
Although some of us have magical ones.
I think the more magical friends, the better. But yeah. This is the point that you're getting to is something that is so significant today in the modern world. And I think that it's only getting more prominent since COVID and with the establishment of further technology and internet and social community and all this whatnot, because people are forgetting what it's like to live in this, physical world. Like, people spend most of their time thinking about their social image and, oh my God, like, God's forbid if I went out to a movie by myself and people found out that I was at the movie by myself. And it's like, who cares if people know you're at the movie by yourself? If you want to go see that movie, go see that movie. If you're afraid to go eat lunch by yourself, what is going on there? But that's such a prominent issue, like, especially like with people my age. They're not going to go if they don't have a group of friends that's also going. So I feel like that is also something that's really keeping people from moving forward and doing what they want to do, because they're just afraid of how it's going to be perceived by others.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like you say, maybe that's another thing that can be promoted within communities is, right? There's all these Facebook groups where it's, free stuff. You can get half a tube of toothpaste. You want to come and pick it up 7 miles away, right? They're posting all this stuff.
Yeah.
People start maybe posting those kinds of things. Hey, if you want to go with someone, like you say, if that's like, some people have that comfort level. I don't want to just show up by myself. So you say, hey, I would like to go to see the arts club play that's playing this month. Is anybody else interested? Because, and that's, like I say, that's what I learned from that group. Now in that particular group, it was all 55 plus, but most of them, I was blown away by the activity that they had and the things that they do, anywhere from opera to, like I say, choirs and some were in theater, the drumming, like I could go on and on. So they all had things that they could share with each other, right? So, yeah, but again, you got to step out the door, and maybe if you're not afraid, but you're challenged to like, it's easy to sit and watch a Netflix special or whatever's on. And people say to me, I always ask when's the last time you saw live comedy? And they're like, well, I saw the special on. Well, that's so perfected. It's so in the can, but you go to a live show, you never know what's going to happen nowadays, right? And you're never going to see it again, because live, anything, music, theater, polka dancing, it just takes place in that moment, that period of time. And it's there, and you share it, like you say, with whoever you share it with. And years later, you can run into that person like, oh my God, remember we were in that polka class? I don't know why I picked on polka. I've never done polka class.
I think that is like a sign from the universe that you have to go see a polka performance.
Yeah, I think I will. I want one of those big crinoline skirts.
Oh, I know, and just how they're always tapping their feet. So graceful. We just had a special guest join our waiting room. So I'd like to tell
how are we doing for time?
We are basically right on time. So I'd like to tell the audience a little bit about what is so special about today's episode. And it's that Janice is going to be giving a little type of seminar, presentation, walkthrough. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one of the things we, of course, talked a lot about the stand-up comedy, but we also, my flip side, my therapeutic side, I just took I was a psychiatric nurse for 14 years. And so I'm a bit of a nerd. I love brain science. I love, to study about how the brain works and how laughter makes connections with the body, etc. And you did ask me at the beginning about laughter, and that was my, in all honesty, and I often don't hear this when I ask people, why are you taking stand-up comedy? They want to be on the Colbert Show, or they wanted it's SNL or whatever. But I went into stand-up comedy just to make people laugh, and I'm still hugely biased. That's if I get laughs, that's my job is done. But it's because I know the benefits of laughter. I know the benefits of laughter because it's good for your body. It's good for your heart. It's good for your brain. It's good for your inside organs. Like it's therapeutic. This is fact now. 20 years ago, like I said, when I was trying to present it to businesses, they would, keep the door shut. Now they realize the value of it. They're teaching courses in university about the value of laughter and kindness and all those things that are good for your body and your soul. So what we're going to do moving forward is we're going to do some what's called laughter yoga. The technical, if you want to call that term, is Hasya, Hasya, Hasya yoga, which means a laughter yoga. So I study with Dr. Madan Kataria out of Mumbai, India. He's a professional doctor, like a family doctor. And he had noticed that patients would come to him and they were always stressed. They had a backache, they had this and that, but it was almost all stress related and was manifesting in aches and pains, right? So he initially started a joke club. Well, as we've just had all these discussions, some joke will work for you, but it won't work for anybody else. So jokes aren't the answer because they're created, but laughter itself is just laughter. It's just it's breathing in and breathing out, and it's doing all those good things to your body. And the research shows they can actually put a cuff on your arm now, and then we'll show when you're laughing how your brain is being stimulated, how your inner organs are being stimulated. So there is such value added. So yes, go see stand-up comedy. Yes, go and support live theater and all those things. But you can just laugh, and you can share laughter by being together in a laughter group. There's some that go on here in the Vancouver area where I am, and they meet regularly. They get together and they laugh for an hour.
Yeah.
And sometimes they call it fake laughter, but you know what? It's kind of like we create it, but your body doesn't know the difference.
And so you trick yourself into doing it, and then next thing you know, you're actually laughing. Yeah,
it's 100%. So, so the people that are joining us, have been in my comedy classes. So they took the time today to come, and I'm gonna try and introduce them and yourself to some laughter exercises. Hi, Peg. And
nice to meet you.
So I'm going to just get them to do it. It's hard to do on Zoom, but I learned during COVID shutdowns, of course, because I did a lot of yoga or laughter yoga programs with different groups. And you just got to let yourself go. A lot of people say, well, I'm not turning my camera on. But you know what? Seeing smiles on screen was one of the most powerful things we had going during the COVID shutdown. So it's nice to see big smiles. So welcome, you guys. So thank you for coming. Yeah. So I will also tell you that before I forget, that on May 5th is World Laughter Day. Okay. So all around the world, there are all kinds of Zooms and live group things. And back to Dr. Kataria. So when he started this and transitioned, one of the reasons he transitioned into the laughter yoga was because his wife was a yoga teacher, and he watched how the breathing, and like I say, so laughter is just sound. So some people go ha 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 ha, ha, and some go ho 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 ho. There's the hee hears, and there's the snorters, who we all love, because anybody who laughs and snorts just creates more laughter, right? Yeah. So when he saw that, he realized that it's just breathing in and breathing out. So with his wife, they developed a program of breathing in and making the sounds of laughter. So those were some of the things that he started out doing. So he started out with 5 people on a beach in Mumbai area, And by 3 years later, there were 10,000 people in a square in, I think it was one of the Norwegian countries, in a square, in a civic square, right? All laughing together. So, and that momentum just built and built. And now they're all over the world, these laughter groups. And you can still study with him and become a certified laughter leader and other things. So you can Google those things after we're finished the session. So,
No, I'll
yeah,
definitely check that out. And,
yeah,
we should do something for World Laughter Day, at least something to engage the people that are willing to come watch.
yeah, for sure. So what we're going to do is we always start off by doing a warm up, and warm up is usually by getting your hands going with a clap. So we just start off by, and if I don't, you guys can unmute or not, like Anne and Peg, if you want to unmute so we can hear the clapping. There obviously be a little bit of delay. There we go. So it's, if you can listen to my rhythm, it's. Good. So, and it's actually more fun with online because it's all out of sync.
It's all out of sync, yeah.
So what we want to do now is, and you'll even notice how already you start to stimulate your fingertips.
Yeah,
get a little,
I can feel it.
Yeah, right. So
yeah,
you've already started to stimulate some of your extremities, and your body's reacting a little bit already. So basically that, and then we're going to add sound into it. So it's really complicated. So I want you to pay attention because the words are ho, ho, ha, ha, ha in that same rhythm. So we're going to go ho, ho, ha, ha, ha,
ho, ho, ha, ha, ha. Oh my God. Hearing all of us at different times is hilarious.
And one of the things people always ask me is like, well, I don't know if I want to do this. And I'm like, what are people going to think? Am I going to get like, I have done this with large corporations when I have the suit guys sitting in the front with their arms crossed and they're like, but you know what? Once they start doing it and get involved, I mean, by the end of the time, they're wearing like boas and clown noses. Yeah. And they're like, when are you coming back again? Because I always say you have a choice. You can sit back and watch, or you can participate. You'll get more benefits from participating, a little bit of benefits from watching. But so let's say people are saying like, oh my God, I did a thing for the one of the what do you call them, the jail institutions. I won't name which one it was, but it was and they were all, the first day they arrived, because I did 2 days in a row, they were all in their full uniforms, the guns, and it was hard to even, like, I was like, but the next day they came in civvies, and they had they just all participated. It was like night and day, right? Because they were so formal and so rigid and so uptight about even participating. What are they going to look like? How is that image going to be blown? But anyway, so we did ha ha ha, ho ho ho, or ho ho ho, ha ha ha. We got the laughter going, and then we're going to think about breathing. So one of the things in a Hatha yoga program is the breathing. So when you're breathing, you always, of course, we always say you gather your breath and bring it into yourself. So what I always, is beautiful spring, weather we're having. And so just pretend you're picking a hyacinths. If any of you are familiar with hyacinths, they have a really nice fragrance. So unless you're allergic to them, you're just putting your arms around a bouquet of hyacinths. You're bringing it in and you're breathing it in. So breathe them in and breathe them out. Breathe them in and breathe them out. Breathe them in and breathe them out. So what you're doing there is you're relaxing between the laughter exercises, because believe it or not, it is an exercise program. So when you go to attend a laughter yoga session, it goes on for an hour. Yeah. And again, when I do this for corporations or something like that, we do like the maximum 7 minutes and everybody's exhausted.
Yeah.
You know who loves it though? The kids.
Yeah.
They can go on, and they're like, can we do more? Can we do more? The adults are like, okay, I'm good. Let me go home.
Yeah.
But that's because kids laugh unconditionally, right? And there's research that shows that kids will laugh up to 300 times a day. And what do they laugh about? Anything.
Anything.
They fall down, they laugh. They stand up, they laugh. That's just what they do. Adults, sometimes they only laugh between 15 and 20 times a day.
I know.
Because
so
they
miserable,
restrict
hey?
themselves, right? Now they're like, oh, I shouldn't laugh at that. Oh, I can't laugh at that. Oh, you start to judge everything and you start to hold back that laughter. You don't. And this is why laughter yoga creates, just laughter, just in your inners types of laughter. So this is really fun to do on screen. So, and you can do this. I always suggest that you do this every morning when you get up, you brush your teeth and then you look in the mirror, you kind of make eye contact because eye contact's really good with laughter. So, I mean, again, it's hard to do on our screens here, but you would be able to look at yourself in your mirror and you do what's called a lion's roar, but you do it in a laugh. So you, pretend you're looking into a mirror because we're all looking at the screen so we can see each other. So we'll just mommy lean forward a little bit. And you do a lion's roar, which is
Okay.
So we'll all do that. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Again, what you did was you brought in some good air. You pumped everything through the system. Peg's like, I can't believe I just did that on But the benefits are immeasurable. And one of the reasons you do it, I suggest you do it first thing in the morning, is because it brings new air in. You see Anne's yawning. Good. That's what you're doing right now, is bringing new air into your body in a wonderful way, right? And a lot of times that's one of the things that happens. We're doing the groups and people be like, why am I yawning? It's because your body's wanting to take in more air. So here's my other part of this. So a lot of people say, well, I'll brush my teeth and do my lion exercise. But if you have a full length mirror and you do this in the morning naked, it's even funnier. I just want you to know that. So that's up to you. You're on your own for that one, but give it a go. So
that's going to be part of my new morning routine.
That's right? So again, we would breathe again. So we know the world is going through some crazy times. We're having a tough time out there. There's so many things going on. So let's just give the world a big hug. The world needs a big hug. So you breathe it in and you breathe it out. You breathe it in and you breathe it out. One more time, breathe it in, in, and you breathe it out. So good luck, world. Let's help you out. So part of laughter wellness exercise too is having, the saying is good intentions, right?
Yeah.
If you come into it with like, oh God, this is going to be a gong show. Well, it probably will be. But if you come into it with, I'm going to help myself, I'm going to bring some stimulation to my body, to my brain, to my cheeks, to my innards, all those kinds of things, you will get the benefits of it. Yeah. And it can be as simple, like I say, as doing, like people always say, well, what about if do I have to go to a group? No, you can do this by yourself. In fact, I'm just thinking this now, you could actually set up your own Zoom, because everybody can do that, and laugh at yourself in your Zoom back and forth for 5 minutes or more. It'd be fantastic. YouTube has lots of groups. They're all over the place. So, if that's something you're interested in, give it a try. It's really fun. So before I close out, what I would on this, we do tons of exercises. They'd be all spread out and a little more repetitive, etc. And sometimes we throw it back to the group where we, move around a little more and do hello laughs or different types of laugh where you interact with each other. And back to what you said, Piper, like kind of at the beginning, it's about making those connections. I have people, this has honestly happened to me. I was getting groceries one time in a shop, and a grocery store, and this woman I didn't know it was a woman. Somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around. She went, ha! I was like, what is going on here? She's like, I was in your laughter group at the such and such, right?
You were like, who is this woman?
I know. And I mean, like everybody in the vegetable section are like, what is going on here? And I thought, I loved it. I totally loved it. We ended up talking for a while. And I thought, that's maybe another thing we should set up is like, there has to be, there's the greeters at the door that check your receipt or whatever. Like there should be like a laughter checkout where you have to, of course, if anybody see me do self-checkout, it would be the laughter checkout. But anyway.
I know. Did I scan these potatoes twice?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I just pretend I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, help. So
yeah.
Anyway. So we breathe in, we breathe out. And then what would you do when you close out a breathing exercise after you've done these different exercises? Now you would do some affirmations. So what I like to always say as part of the affirmations is, I will give you 3 affirmations and you just say, yeah. So I will say them and you just say, yeah. So number 1, I'm the healthiest person in the world.
Yeah.
Healthiest person in the world. Yeah. I'm going to laugh for no reason. Yeah. So that would be how we would close out a session. So I'll keep that short because I think, I know Piper, we could maybe talk to Peg and Anne, like I said, they've done stand-up comedy, both of them, and done some storytelling as well with me. And Peg's just was in my last classes. So it's just getting started or who knows where, but they both have a bit of a unique kind of areas that they work in or have been in and stuff. So maybe you could just touch base with them or I can do that for you or you go ahead. So
we can both jump in and out and just, see where this conversation takes us. But I'd first like to ask, how'd you guys get involved in this episode with Janice and I? Why did you decide you wanted to do this today? And how do you think it went?
Hey, go first.
Yeah, I'll go. So got involved today because Janice reached out and said, did anyone want to do some laughter exercises? And I was like, heck yes. Yes, yeah. I do. I think for me, I love the idea of laughing for no reason. And I think that's what really intrigues me about this. We live in such a society where if I do this, then I will be happy. Or when I do this, I will allow myself to have that positive response, right? And one of the things that I'm really trying to build into my own life is that sense of haha for no reason. And also to normalize it for other people, just to be that happy weirdo walking down the street, humming a tune. Because I think the world needs more of it. And I think, the world needs more Janice, quite frankly, is my theory in the world. But yeah, so that
happy weirdos. Yeah. I like
more
that.
happy weirdos. Yeah.
No,
welcome to my team.
Weirdos. Yeah. I liked what you said about not enough people are just on the street humming a tune, listening to their headphones and dancing openly. And I was talking to Janice about this earlier, but I feel like there's just such a sense of shame in how people are going to perceive you. I am the type that has my music up all the way. I'm singing, dancing, and I'm arrogant wherever I go, no matter where I'm going. But you don't see anyone else doing that. And I feel like it's because people are afraid of how strangers are going to perceive them. But now you're shutting down something that you could be doing good for yourself that'll improve your day because you don't know how other people are going to react, which, that's that you're boxing yourself into an immovable shell by doing that.
My mom always used to say, because I've been a weirdo since I was a kid, so I would do things and sometimes I'd say that to her, Mom, are people going to think that, that's weird? My mom would always say, Janice, always do well and let the people talk. And I've always lived by that. Like I do some really quirky things and people are like, I cannot believe you did that. And I'm like, well, it came upon me in the moment, and I thought, and I've heard, not heard, but I'm sure people go like, oh my God, were you there when she did that? But you know what, you got to deal with you. I'm just me. And back to what Peg said is we need more happy weirdos. I'm going to start a new team.
Totally start a new team and call me up. I want to be a part of it.
Exactly.
All
And
right, Anne, what's your perspective on that question?
Oh, I came here because I love Janice. I want to support her. Plus free laughs. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, so this is on topic, but this morning I woke up very pissy,
Okay.
and I thought about like showing up here, and I was more even pissier because somehow I
You're
feel
like,
like
now I
I have
have
to
something I
show up,
gotta do. Yeah.
yeah, and be happy for Janice. So I just decided that I'm just gonna be pissy today, and I was pissy and I was laughing, and it's all good.
there you
Oh,
go.
perfect. So, that's a testament to what Janice was saying earlier about, like even laughing for no reason can pull you out of a bad mood. And, it's like a ripple effect. Now, everyone you go and speak to today isn't going to feel that pissy energy. I'm not getting that energy from you right now. It's probably because we had our tongues out and we were yelling at each other. Um, but like that's really amazing. That shows the scientific impact on the brain and the emotions that even laughing for no reason has, which
Yeah.
is the whole point of why we're talking today.
I love
Right.
the self-awareness too, right? Like two things can be true. I could be pissy and laughing at myself while I'm doing
Yeah,
it, right? And I
Right.
think
that makes it
that,
funnier because it's like I'm so
yeah,
pissed right now, but now I'm laughing.
Well, and
exactly.
you know what? This extends to this therapeutic side of just the laughter, just instigating laughter within yourself, and in comedy classes or taking humorous type or going to see a funny movie. Because I've had texts come in sometimes. I don't think I'm going to be at class tonight. I'm not, I'm a little. They're down. Is basically what's
Yeah,
happening, and I'm like, well, why don't you just come? Stay for half an hour if it doesn't work out, and then leave.
then you can
And
leave.
so and when they get there, they're like, you know what, this was the best thing I could have done for myself. I mean, I've had people that have gone through traumatic things, and when they get to class, they're just like, oh my god, I didn't realize how their words, how therapeutic this would have been. And part of it is the connection with other people, part of it was of course laughing. And you're right, it's just, and I think that's back to Anne, what you said. I mean, I think that's why I said about doing this crazy thing in the mirror. I have people that are like, oh my god, I'm still doing that lion thing, by the way. They just call it the lion thing, right? But it's actually good for your throat chakras. I mean,
Mm,
one of the things we do is a chakra laugh, where we start, through the top of the head and work
Ah,
right down to the feet and
yeah.
stimulate all. There's so many ways. I mean, but just look at yourself in the mirror and stick out your tongue and laugh. It's just, it is so therapeutic. So it's and thank you again for both of you for coming out. And as Anne said, I've worked with her quite a bit. She's actually helped me build an online class. So I'm with
okay.
she knows what she's doing. I'm like help, but she's wonderful there. And Peg, if I may, Peg is also a death doula, right?
Hmm. Yep,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
she works in an area and a medium. So she
Yep.
works in areas that are different than just the ordinary run of the mill, and kind of left her career of the middle management, as she called it,
Yeah,
and come
exactly.
to new areas
Yeah.
of
But you know
expertise.
what? And Janice, what's so lovely about that, like I run death cafes, which are you just gather a group of people and you'd like, hey, let's talk about death. And it's
Yeah, I've
great.
been
And
to
people
some.
are,
Yeah.
yeah. But I love the element of fun in it. So, when I want to break up the crowd, instead of saying, hey, everybody come back, I hold up a rubber chicken and I start squeezing the rubber chicken because it's such it doesn't make sense in that environment.
It's
And that's what catches people
juxtaposition, totally. Yeah.
100%. And I always tell people by the end of this, people are going to think we're throwing a party in here, not sitting
Yeah.
here talking about our mortality. Because again, you make it okay to laugh. Like my favorite question in a death cafe is everybody's got the I can't believe this happened at a funeral story. Let's go. Let me hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we've all got one,
Okay.
right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
that shared humanity, we've all laughed at a funeral inappropriately for some reason. And let's dive into that because that really is like to your point, Janice, about the breath of life, right? Like laughing is so life affirming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it's a fantastic tool as well.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
and Yeah, and I mean, I've done a few funerals, I guess you can call them. We tried to rebrand them as funerals, right? Because people wanted that. They didn't want the somber,
Yeah.
and so we did laughter exercises. And I cannot tell you, I wish I was allowed to film them because the faces of people when they told what was going to go on, they're like, "Are you kidding me?" Because it's so out of the box, right? But I also did a years ago a conference for like their keynote for hospice people, right? People work in hospice or anything like that. And that was the part you have. And back to what Peg was saying, you got to give yourself permission, right? We all have all these rules around, funerals should be somber, they should be down. I've attended a couple death cafes, and both of them were really fun. And you're like, what? Are you kidding me? But you know, that's the kind of things that you need to. Life is, we got to, like you say, screw it up a bit, have more weirdos and more unexpected things. So yeah. And Anne, I know Anne and I have laughed a lot, because mostly at my expense, because I'm like, well, where does that click? Do I click? But she's so supportive. So
And so many of these factors that we're talking about are inevitable about life. So you might as well put as good of a spin on it as you can.
Right.
I love that, Peggy, you work in such a morbid type of, industry. And a death cafe, I would love to go to one. I've never heard of it before, but it's extremely right up my alley. And it is great to bring something like so fun and unexpected to someone's death, because at the end of the day, we're all one day closer to meeting our own demise. So we might as well like make it more of a conversation that's okay to be talked about.
Yeah.
At my grandfather's funeral, I ended up doing a hip hop dance in a full sequin outfit and a top hat. So like, it's like, I probably shouldn't be doing this at a funeral, but why not? Why not? My grandpa loved watching me dance.
There
and
you
now
go.
He can watch me from the world beyond.
Yeah.
That is
and
fantastic.
and I think that's what people like. I actually would love to do a storytelling class on writing eulogies, and like, just because I think they should all be humorous, right? And
so good.
Those are the best ones too.
Yeah, and then that's what happened at this one, when the couple that I've done, where I said, I want you to participate because this is the wish of whoever it was that had passed. And then they're like, oh crap, now I guess I have to do this, right?
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, they were just like, okay, I get it, because they were that type of person, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to sit around. My dad always said, I don't want any mournful music at my, like, he wanted it all to be cheery and upbeat and country and western, of course, which so
hey,
yeah,
that's already
the way
right
it
on
should
the right
be.
track.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we, come to a close for our episode today, I wanted to ask some questions to all you guys to just get the energy flowing, and, some out of left field questions. So, if you guys could swap lives with any fictional character for a day, who would you choose? What would you expect to experience? And why'd you choose that character?
Oh, okay. I think I don't even know if all of you know who this is, but do you guys know who Beep Beep the Roadrunner used to be?
I know the Roadrunner
okay.
all the way. Yeah.
And might not know. Okay, Beep Beep the Roadrunner was a cartoon character that used to go in and out of like the holes and pop up and beep beep, and then he'd go on to. And I'd like to be that character, just like I say, just showing up, like walking down the street out here and just jump up in front of me and go beep beep, but I do some kind of laughter thing. I don't know. I have to figure that out. But just that people, like I say, get so caught up in their ways and their ordinary that would just, they'd have to like, what is, like, and so I think it would either make them smile or they'd pass out, one or the other. So, but I do have CPR, so I can do both. But I think just something like beep beep, and just like ha ha, like with their, like, I have to be okay to do it, because I don't want to give anybody a heart attack. But I think some character like that, I think it'd be cool. So that's mine. I don't know about the other guys.
Did who else had any ideas? I'm still trying to think on who I would pick, but
You know what? For me, the first person that came to my head was Sammy Davis Jr. And
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, and number because he was a tap dancer, so and I'm a tap dancer, and it's a thing, and
oh,
part of the Rat Pack and just that whole thing. But I remember reading his biography, and he did not have an easy life. He was very aware of his race and the constraints of that, and the systemic racism and everything else. But he played the game so well, and he did things on purpose to
mm.
mess with people. And he was always like, and if you watch him, he's always got this grin on his face, like he's getting away with something. And
Okay.
I think there's just that aspect of being fully invested in the game and playing it and knowing that you're doing it and that you're tickling somebody's fancy out there. Somebody's getting it. I think that
True.
would light me up. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that because I feel like there's not enough people that do like good, just fun-hearted pranks these days, you know?
Yeah.
Everything is always taken either too extreme or it's, observed as too extreme. Like we just need more people having fun, pranking each other. There's nothing better than that.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
feel like that's
And,
something we're missing out on.
yeah, and you're right. I mean, when you mentioned the Rat Pack, which was I think Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and him, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they were
Yeah.
like they were all like singers, and they were also Dean Martin was more of a comedian host kind of thing. But you're right. The camaraderie they shared was really fun,
Absolutely.
and you're right. He was more diverse than the other two, so he must have had to really kind of. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. That's a good one. Yeah.
How about you, Anne?
I would like to be a ghost.
A
A
ghost? Any
ghost.
specific
I
Nice.
want to
ghost?
know how it feels like to be dead.
Okay.
Oh.
Very cool.
That's super cool actually. What would you expect to like go do if you were dead in a spirit or something?
Uh, just want to like poke around, haunt people, see how it feels. Probably light, just like I'm like a paper, just floating.
I think that would
Ah.
be fun,
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully. Hopefully you get to experience that, not just all darkness, but that's a problem for a different day, I guess. I think I would pick to be I don't know if you guys know this character, but her name is like the Scarlet Witch. She's a Marvel character. Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's a total bad bee.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be so fun to, be able to play with magic and manipulate things. But also she's a part of the Avengers, so she would get to like hang out with a bunch of other powerful people and fight crime and do whatever. I think that'd be
Yeah.
so fun just to have
Ooh,
some
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
type of power.
Yeah.
that's
Um,
cool.
I like
yes,
her power too because she doesn't flaunt it. Like she doesn't have
no,
to
she
be like
doesn't.
up in your grill. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and she knows that she's got it all going on. She's like these
exactly.
guys around me don't even know. You're super strong. Well, I can move things with my mind, so
Exactly. Exactly.
what's
Yeah.
cooler? All right. On to some of our last questions for today. I'd love for, Janice, Peggy, you two, and to be able to give a piece of advice to someone out there, whether it's in the comedy world or just a piece of advice that you've lived by that you've learned something from. And what's that piece of advice?
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm in this business. I just say have fun. Like, great. Don't quit judging yourself, quit judging each other's. If you're kooky and weird and you don't want others to know, just keep it a secret, have a down low image of yourself, but just in your heart and in your mind, just like be kooky, right? Let it go. Like it's just, there. I mean, I gotta tell you, I'll sometimes have to bite my tongue. Actually, not sometimes. I often have to bite
Often,
my
yeah.
tongue because I could add almost a punchline to every conversation I get in on.
Me
right?
too. Me
and
too.
Sometimes I do overstep other people talking because I just have to, add some weird thing to it. And I think that might sometimes be annoying to other people because they're like, okay, not everything's a big laugh riot, but I just like have fun with your life. Like it's just, and be with people, leave the house and talk to people. Say hi, go out today when we finish here, go walk around the block and say hi to everybody you pass. And they will make me shocked, right? They're like, what's going on, but just say hi to them.
Yeah.
All right. That's my advice.
How about you, Peggy?
Yeah, I have to echo that. I would say try everything. Try it all. If you hate it, you don't ever have to do it again. But to Janice's point, there are so many people out there in the world doing so many incredible things. I go on Meetup all the time, and every day of the week there is something totally weird and awesome happening because people are just trying to express something amazing in the world. And so I think, try everything, fail fast, fail often, on purpose. Yeah. Just get out there and screw it all up because something beautiful will come of it. Something beautiful will come of it. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in there's no better teacher than your own mistakes. So I'm all for screwing it up and learning from it. Yeah. How about you, Anne?
Something about feelings. Your feelings matter. And what you want matter.
Yeah.
Just listen to it. Do what you want.
Yeah.
Know what other people want for you.
No, totally. And if I were to, I'm not going to give any advice, but if I were to, it would definitely be about, it doesn't matter what strangers are going to think. Do what you want to do, as long as you're not hurting other people. But some people are hurt too easily. So go out and, just live to your fullest extent. If you want to talk to strangers, talk to strangers. If you want to sing in the street, go sing in the street. And don't take what other people are going to potentially think about to cancel out what you want to do. So I think that is something that we all could live by. All
Beautiful.
Right. Janice.
Yes.
Who is someone from your network that you think would be great to have on our show? Obviously, we have Peggy and Ann who came today, and we would love to have you guys be a part of a humor series that we do here on the show. If you're interested, we can contact about that. But who are some people in your network, Janice, that you think would be great additions to have on Boundary Breakers?
Well, I last year I was involved with a group called Real Wheels. And they do theater, they do comedy, they do dance, they do all kinds of stuff. And they're all people of different abilities, more out of the, just the basic things. They add like extra things to their performances, and they all have, they're coping with sometimes things that you think, oh, they can't do dancing, right? But they can. There's a woman, I know her name is Janice because it's my name as well, who does dancing from a wheelchair. And, I think that it'd be wonderful to see someone from their organization or individually to come and do some informative stuff as well as promote their programming. And, I think they're a wonderful connection we have here I'm in the Vancouver area, as I said before. I know where this is going across the country, but I think someone from that organization would be really worth checking out. So
they're fantastic.
So Peg knows them
too.
Yeah.
Look at that. Well, I'll definitely reach out to them and see if they're interested. But how about you, Peggy and Ann? What did you think of? You only got to see part of the episode with Janice today, but what do you think of Boundary Breakers, and would you like to be a part of it?
I would love to. I think the whole concept is just absolutely fantastic. I'd also love to throw out the name Jennifer Bishop. She is a local performer. She is a producer. She's a studio owner here in Vancouver. She has an incredible sense of humor. She's a cabaret performer. But what I love about her is shamelessly promotes other people's work. And she's created a dance studio of wonderful weirdos and misfits. And she's just such a staple in the Vancouver cabaret societies. I think she would be incredible as well. But yeah, I'd be happy to help out in any way I can.
Perfect.
Cool.
Well, I'll get your contact information too. How about you, Am? What do you think?
For my 30 minutes being here. I love these conversations. I would love to, I think these conversations need to happen more. So I would love to be a part of that in any way I can.
Perfect. And that's the point of this show here. It's called Boundary Breakers for a reason. We're looking to, get rid of some of the stigmatizations that we have in our society today and bring more attention to some important topics that people don't talk about enough. And this is just a reoccurring topic that we keep coming back to, is that people aren't connecting enough with one another. Humans, we're social beings. We need that connection in order to flourish. And senior isolation and loneliness and depression, anxiety, these are such common terms that we aren't even combating them in every way we can. And it's as simple as just coming onto the Zoom and yelling in each other's faces and talking about what fictional characters we'd like to be. So that's just a testament to why people need to connect with one another and how great it actually is. And look at that, we turned Anne's mood around just like that.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will carry out for the rest of the day. But I just love to thank you guys so much for coming and participating today. Janice, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I'd love to connect and see if we can do anything for World Laughter Day on the 5th. So we can talk about that after we close this episode for today. But thank you to our audience for coming and watching. I hope you guys participated in that little seminar. Does anyone have any lasting words you'd like to say before we cut the stream?
Well, I was just going to say, everybody, you're all welcome to check out. I'm going to do a little promo here. My YouTube channel, which is under Laughter Zone 101. I'm on TikTok, and I have a TEDx talk under my own name, and all the other things. Check it all out. And if you want to take a comedy class, like I say, we do live classes in the Lower Mainland. We do storytelling and some, and we will have an online class eventually.
Heck yeah!
Stand up. So yeah, please check out all those things. I love your support. I love meeting, new people, whether it's online or I have some private students I work with as well, or speakers that want to add, comedy to their presentation. So check out all that stuff. But and parents, this is a general statement to all parents. I am a firm believer that happy parents make happy kids. So keep your kids entertained and laughing, and get them thinking join our weirdo pack, because it'll produce, it's going to escalate. We get the happiness going from the grandmas to the parents to the kids.
We can turn intergenerationalism.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Boom.
And I do want to, I certainly do want to thank you, Piper. And I want to take, it's Yati, who's behind the scenes there, looks just on screen. We don't see her, but she's holding this all together for us. So thank you. And thank you, Peg, and thank you, Anne, for showing up today. I really appreciate your time. I know Anne has to run, but I really appreciate, and I just happiness and love to you all.
Yep, this was another amazing Boundary Breakers episode, and we look forward to seeing everyone in the next one. Thanks so much for coming, audience. Thanks so much for coming, Peg and Anne.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.